Billionaire's heartwarming illness exposes incredible family secrets. Discover the life-changing journey of Jake Harper. Jake Harper was living the American dream, or so the world thought. At 42, he was a self-made billionaire, his name synonymous with success. Maple Grove, his charming hometown, buzzed with whispers of his tech empire, born from the remains of his grandfather's once bustling hardware store. But behind the glitz, a gnawing emptiness churned in Jake's heart. The relentless pursuit of wealth had cost him invaluable connections, especially with his brother Ethan, a simple man tethered to the roots of their family's past. Life took a sharp turn when Jake received a diagnosis that stopped him cold. It was as if the universe had hit him with a bucket of ice water, forcing him to face his superficial lifestyle. A well of pain burst open, revealing deep-seated regrets. Late one night, in search of solace, he stumbled across an old trunk, enshrined in layers of dust. It held letters and photographs from his grandfather's struggles during the Great Depression. Each artifact was a connection to family history, echoes of perseverance, love, and loyalty that had been overshadowed by his own ambitions. As he read through the letters, a surge of emotion welled up inside him. The tales of hardship struck a chord, connecting him to generations past. He remembered the stories his grandfather told about neighbors standing shoulder to shoulder, evoking the spirit of community that Maple Grove was built on. The town rallied together during tough times, sharing not just resources but also love. Was Jake moving through life blind to these values? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Christmas approached, memories ignited a fierce longing for connection. Then came an unexpected call from Ethan, the brother he had drifted far from. The warmth of their childhood rang in his ears, but so did the pain of years lost. Jake found himself standing at a crossroads. He had chased dreams of success but woke up to the disorienting realization that success meant nothing without family. The town's annual holiday festival was right around the corner. Under the delicate twinkling lights, Jake faced the community that had once embraced his family. Conversations and laughter filled the air, yet Jake felt the weight of unacknowledged sins pressing down. He could almost hear the whispers from the townsfolk as they reminisced about the local hardware store that had been more than just a business. It was an emblem of their collective spirit. As he finally confronted Ethan beneath those glowing lights, silence enveloped them, thick with unresolved tension. Jake felt the regret heavily on his chest. This encounter could be a redemption or seal of betrayal. With his decision looming large, Jake looked beyond the glittering facade of success and witnessed the true cost of ambition. Would he embrace the painful truths revealed in his family's history and strive for reconciliation, or let the specter of corporate greed cloud his judgment once again? The air buzzed with uncertainty, and Jake realized this was not just about him anymore. It was about restoring his family's legacy. Jake stood frozen in the moment, feeling the warmth of the holiday lights contrasting with the chill of the unresolved history between him and Ethan. The weight of unspoken words lingered in the air, suffocating yet strangely electric. He could see the flicker of uncertainty in Ethan's eyes, a reflection of his own doubts. Would they really be able to bridge the chasm that had formed over the years? Ethan. Jake finally managed, his voice almost a whisper against the backdrop of jubilant festivities around them. He took a step forward, feeling as if 1,000 memories surged up within him: laughter over games in the backyard, the lingering scent of their grandmother's apple pie, the sound of their mother scolding them for throwing snowballs at the neighbor's fence. All of it felt so alive yet so far away. Jake, Ethan replied, his voice tight as if it were the first time he was saying his brother's name in years. It's been a long time. There was a heaviness in the way Ethan spoke, every word laced with a history that Jake could hardly bear to face. Yet it was that very history crying out to be acknowledged. Jake saw the flicker of hope in Ethan's eyes dim ever so slightly as silence stretched between them again. He could feel the pull of desperation and need for connection battling against the weight of regret. I know I've messed up, Jake began, feeling the truth wrestle its way to the surface. I've been so focused on building my empire that I forgot what it really means to be family. I need you to know that. Ethan looked at him, confusion flickering across his face. It's not just about you, Jake. You shut me out, you shut everyone out. Do you even understand how that feels? Jake felt the sting of his brother's words, a sharp reminder of the barrier he had built not just between them but against everyone who once mattered. The laughter and joy that filled the festival felt wild and chaotic. It served as a painful juxtaposition to the sadness swirling in his heart. How had he come to this point where the life he built felt so hollow? I regret it every day, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I thought success would fill the emptiness, but it hasn't. It's only made things worse. The moment hung delicately, the urgency of their shared history crackling in the air. A single tear slipped down Ethan's cheek, breaking the dam of silence. We've both been hurt, Jake, he said softly. But we can't keep going like this. We need each other. With those words, something shifted. The spark of hope ignited in Jake's chest, pushing against the distressed cloud of self-doubt hovering over him. Family was about more than just proximity, it was about understanding and healing. It was about building bridges where walls once stood. I can't promise I'll be perfect, Jake replied, his voice steadying. But I can promise to try to be a better brother, to reconnect with my roots. Their eyes locked, a silent promise passing between them. The festival lights twinkled down, illuminating their tentative reconciliation like a guiding star. Just then, a laugh erupted nearby. The moment snapped like a rubber band, propelling Jake back to the reality of the crowded square. As they turned to join the festivities or perhaps ease the awkwardness that loomed, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was merely the beginning. The echoes of his grandfather's words flickered in his mind again, reminding him of the strength of community, of standing together against hardship. Could he really reclaim not just his relationship with Ethan but also something deeper, a shared legacy that had been buried under years of neglect? Let us make this night count, Ethan suggested, a semblance of warmth returning to his smile. They stepped forward together, two brothers navigating the complicated dance of forgiveness and understanding. But amidst the laughter and joy, a new rumble of uncertainty brewed in Jake's chest. A question knotted tight within him. Could love truly mend what had been broken, or was a deeper challenge on the horizon, one that could shatter his world all over again? As that thought lingered, Jake felt a ripple of apprehension. What lay ahead for them both? The moment Jake and Ethan stepped into the thrumming heart of the festival, the warmth of the lights enveloped them like a blanket. Joyful laughter erupted all around, filling the crisp night air, but they carried their own shadows as they ventured forward. Children raced past them, faces aglow with excitement, chasing after one another, blissfully unaware of the deeper currents swirling between the brothers. They found themselves drawn toward a booth where hot cocoa was being served, the rich scent wafting through the air. As Jake placed an order for 2 steaming cups, he caught Ethan watching a group of kids building a snowman. A small pang of nostalgia struck him. Memories flooded his mind of the times they had rolled snow into big mounds, their faces rosy from laughter. We used to do that, he remarked quietly, nodding toward the kids. Ethan turned, a shy smile breaking over his face. Yeah, we did. Remember the one that ended up looking like a penguin? Jake chuckled, the sound feeling foreign yet freeing. And you insisted it needed a carrot nose. I was convinced it needed a hat. Their laughter seemed to bridge the gap, just for a moment. But the laughter quickly faded, overshadowed by the heaviness that lingered between them. As Jake accepted the cups from the vendor, the warmth seeped into his hands, and he felt a kindling of hope replace the doubt gnawing at him. Thanks for talking earlier, Ethan said, his gaze shifting to the ground. It's just hard to forgive when you've planted seeds of doubt for so long. Jake felt the truth of that statement settle heavily on his shoulders. I understand. I've lost myself in all the wrong places. I thought chasing success would fill the void, but it only made everything worse. Ethan raised an eyebrow. It sounds like you're still searching, even after all this time. Jake let out a slow breath, as the weight of regret hung heavily over him. I'm ready to stop searching and start building instead. With you. They moved through the festival, navigating clusters of families and friends, their spirits slowly lifting as they called back memories of joyful gatherings they had been part of in their youth. As they stopped to gaze at the towering Christmas tree, glittering with ornaments and twinkling lights, Jake felt a surge of determination. "Do you remember how we used to hang those ridiculous decorations our grandmother made?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with a mix of nostalgia and mischief. Ethan laughed, a sound like music in the bustling atmosphere. "Oh, the ones that looked like they were made out of recycled stuff. I thought Grandma was a genius for turning trash into art." They shared a tender moment, both realizing that these memories were essential glue to hold them together. Yet, plaguing Jake was the question that loomed larger again. Could they truly move forward, rebuilding what had been lost? As they halted before the tree, two little girls dashed in front of them, giggling and trying to reach for a strand of hanging lights. The connection between them sparked hope but also exposed vulnerabilities. "I don't want to keep hiding," Jake admitted, the vulnerability in his voice startling him. "I want to know what you've been feeling, the challenges you've faced." Ethan's expression turned serious as he nodded. "I can share, but it's a lot, Jake. We should find a quiet spot and really talk. It's not just about us anymore." Jake's heart raced. What was Ethan holding back? What secrets had been buried for so long? He sensed the weight behind those words, an impending revelation that could change everything. "Okay," Jake replied, anxiety twisting in his stomach. "I'm ready." As they stepped away from the festival bustle to find a quieter corner, Jake couldn't help but wonder what Ethan would unveil. Would it bring them closer together, or would it expose wounds that had yet to heal? He could feel the unraveling tension in the air, a truth on the verge of revelation. In the depths of the night, between laughter and memories, the past began to stretch its fingers into the present. What secrets would emerge from the shadows, and how would they shape their futures together? The lights of the festival dimmed in the distance as Jake and Ethan navigated through towering piles of snow and clusters of people. The sounds of holiday cheer faded gradually, being replaced by the gentle crunch of snow beneath their boots and the quickening thud of Jake's heart. What awaited them felt like a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. They found a small, isolated area behind a row of food stalls, the air heavier and colder but comforting in its solitude. Jake leaned against a wooden fence, the roughness of it grounding him as he faced Ethan, who stood a few paces away, his expression serious. "Okay," Jake said, his voice barely breaking the silence. "What's on your mind?" Ethan shifted his weight uneasily, his eyes darting around, searching for the right words or perhaps a way to escape. "It's easier not to say anything. But I can't do that anymore." Jake felt the twist of anticipation in his gut. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" Ethan hesitated, swallowing hard. It's been hard. Things have changed a lot since you left. We lost Dad," and Jake winced at the mention of their father. The shadow of that loss had stretched over them both, a constant reminder of the cracks that spread through their lives. "I know," he said quietly. Ethan took a deep breath, his entire demeanor shifting slightly. "I should have reached out. When things went downhill, I thought you didn't care. I thought you had just vanished. I was so wrapped up in myself that I didn't even realize how much you were struggling," Jake replied, guilt curling in his chest. "I left you alone, and I'm sorry for that. I thought you were better off without me." Ethan's expression softened. "And I thought I was alone. It's like we both built these walls. I convinced myself I didn't need you. But then I did." Jake felt his stomach twist. "I guess I thought if I made something of myself out there, it would somehow fix everything. But it didn't." Ethan stepped closer, his eyes locking onto Jake's. "You were never the problem, Jake. It was us. We were a team, you and I. When you left, it felt like I lost a part of myself." Jake reached out, touching Ethan's arm gingerly as if that connection alone could heal years of distance. "I want to change that. I want to rebuild what we had." Ethan nodded, but doubts lingered in his eyes. "You know, there are things I need to tell you that might change how you feel. It's not just about us. I've been dealing with stuff. Family stuff. A chill raced through Jake. What do you mean? Ethan inhaled deeply, the tension in the air palpable. It's not just about Dad's passing. There are things about our family history that I've come to learn. Secrets, really. It's complicated, and I don't even know how to say it. Jake felt a knot tighten in his chest, a premonition spiraling. Secrets? What kind of secrets? Ethan looked away, as if searching for the right words in the frosty air. Things we were always told to forget. Things that change everything. Jake's mind raced. Could this unravel everything he was trying to mend? Ethan, whatever it is, we can handle it together. Ethan locked gazes with him, a flicker of vulnerability passing over his face. I hope so. But this might be more than either of us can handle. As Ethan opened his mouth to continue, a sudden gust of wind whipped through the area, blowing a swirl of snow between them. It felt almost like a warning, as if the universe itself sensed the tension and the impending storm of revelations. What if the truths we unearth only drive us further apart? Jake thought, unease washing over him. In that fragile moment, the weight of unspoken words hung heavy, as the festive sounds of laughter and joy faded into the background. The night held its breath, thick with expectation. What could Ethan reveal that might shatter their fragile reconnection? Would it truly bring them closer, or would it tear apart the threads they were struggling to weave back together? The answers lay just beneath the surface, waiting to burst forth in the cold of the night. Ethan drew a deep breath, as if readying himself to jump into icy waters. The cold air pressed against them like a weighted blanket, amplifying the quiet surrounding their fragile reunion. Jake, we've been swept under a rug our whole lives, he finally said, his voice a whisper laced with urgency. But the truth is Dad wasn't just struggling with his health. There's something deeper. Jake frowned, feeling a surge of confusion and concern. What do you mean? I thought it was just an illness. Ethan interrupted, an edge creeping into his tone. It was more than that. It's about who we are, who he was. I found out things that change everything about our family. Jake felt his heart race, his breath quickening. Ethan, you're scaring me. What did you find? Ethan looked him in the eye, determination shining through his apprehension. I got a call from a private investigator. He was looking into Dad's affairs after his passing. Apparently, he had dealings we never knew about: assets, debts, connections. He paused, letting the words hang heavy, weighted with implications. Jake felt the icy grip of dread. Connections? What kind of connections? Ethan stepped closer, and Jake could see the flicker of doubt in his brother's eyes. Illegal connections. Jake, I'm not saying I believe it all yet, but our family was involved in things that were beyond normal. Drug money, money laundering. It's as if he tried to shield us from a life we never knew about. Harry and Emily had never told them the truth. The late-night whispering, the subtle panics, the stress etched on their father's brow as he tried to smile through it all. Jake always thought it was just the weight of responsibility. To think it hid something darker made his stomach churn. No, Jake shook his head vehemently, refuting Ethan's speculation. That can't be true. Dad would never. He was a good man. Maybe he thought he was doing it for us. Maybe that was the lie he told himself. Ethan rubbed his hands together, as if to warm them against an unseen chill. But now I'm left questioning everything I thought I knew. Jake stepped back, the world around him crystallizing with crystalline clarity. What else did this guy say? There's more, Jake. It's not just the money. It's who we might be connected to. People who could come looking for us, threats we never even realized were lurking. Jake's mind raced. His safe haven, the idyllic life he tried to build in the city, could have been a facade built on a crumbling foundation. Are you saying our lives have been a lie this entire time? Not a lie, but a hidden truth, Ethan corrected, anguish hanging in his voice. I don't know how deep this runs, but whatever it reveals could either bind us closer or tear us apart completely. The wind howled again, wrapping around them like a ghostly whisper, urging Jake to confront what lay ahead. And if these truths come crawling out of the shadows? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. Ethan, looking more exposed than ever, looked at Jake with a desperate hope. Then we face them. Together. But first, we need to decide if we want to dive deeper into this. Because once we do, there's no turning back. A weight settled in the air, and Jake's heart hung suspended. The tightrope they were walking could easily snap under the pressure of ancient secrets. Are we really ready for this? He wondered silently, uncertainty gnawing at him. The stakes felt impossibly high. As they stood there, the fluorescent lights of the festival flickering in the distance, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning, a prelude to something both terrifying and enlightening. What if the past was trying to claim them both? What if their family's legacy was one they'd never choose? The next breath felt heavy with expectation, the next decision stretching before them like an unknown path in the dark. Would they find strength in the truth, or would it tear apart the very fabric of their bond? Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he faced Ethan. With those words lingering in the air, the question loomed ominously. What was hidden, and how much would it change their lives? Ethan's gaze was clouded with uncertainty, mirroring the storm that brewed in Jake's heart. It felt as if the ground beneath them had shifted, and the safety of their youth was unraveling, thread by thread. Jake, Ethan finally said, taking a step back, I know this is a lot. But we need to find out what is real. We can't stand here in the half-light, hoping for answers to just appear. Jake nodded, but the weight of their history pressed down harder. They had spent years worried about their father's well-being, never realizing there was a much darker truth veiled beneath their childhood memories. Lives forged in comfort now seemed tethered to shadows that had always been there, lurking by the edges. What do we do first? Jake asked, his voice a bit stronger now, his determination rising despite the fear churning inside him. Do we talk to this investigator? I think we have to, Ethan said, his voice gaining strength. Whoever he is, he holds pieces of the puzzle. But we need to be smart about this. If there's anyone connected to Dad's past, we could be stepping into dangerous territory. Jake swallowed hard. The thought made his skin crawl. How could they have been so blissfully unaware? Yet, somewhere deep inside, he felt the pull to understand. What good was living a life if it was built on a foundation of lies? As they weighed their options, the distant sounds of laughter and music from the festival blended into background noise, almost mocking their seriousness. It felt surreal, like they had fallen into a different world, one where reality was dodging them like a sneaky adversary. Look, we should start by checking out Dad's things. Maybe there are old papers or documents that can give us clues, Ethan suggested, flicking his glance towards their childhood home, the place that now felt like a haunting reminder of what was left unspoken. Jake's stomach pitched at the thought. The same house that held laughter and warmth now felt like a cage. What if we find something we don't want to see? Then we face it, Ethan replied firmly. We have to. If it is scary, we'll deal with it together. No more secrets, right? Time moved sluggishly as they made their way back to their family home. The cold wind whistled around them, carrying whispers of nostalgia, regret, and fear. Each step felt both heavy and liberating, as if they were shedding years of ignorance with each footfall. Reaching the front door, Ethan hesitated, key in hand. Are you ready? No more dodging. No more pretending. Jake nodded resolutely, though a tight lump formed in his throat. Let us unlock it. As the door swung open, it creaked like a ghostly reminder. The musty scent of lost memories washed over them, overwhelming in its familiarity. Dust particles danced in rays of light filtering through the windows, illuminating paths of uncertainty. Jake stepped inside first. The living room looked intact, but somehow foreign. He could almost hear the laughter of their childhood echoing off the walls, but the joy felt dampened by the growing shadows of discovery. Ethan switched on the light, his fingers grazing the edges of the framed pictures lining the walls. Images of happy moments, birthdays, holidays, all now tinged with unspoken truths. Where do we even start? He murmured, stepping further into the room. Jake moved toward the bookshelf that held Dad's favorite novels. He pulled one out, and an envelope slipped from between the pages, landing softly at his feet. Kneeling down, he picked it up. It was unsealed, and his heart raced again. "What's that?" Ethan asked, curiosity mingled with concern. Jake's mind raced, fear battling with a deep-seated need to uncover the truth. The envelope felt heavy in his hand, like a promise or a threat. "I don't know," he said slowly, "but we're about to find out." With trembling fingers, he opened it, heart pounding. Inside were documents and names that could unravel everything they thought they knew. Jake looked up at Ethan, fear and resolution mixing in his eyes. Whatever's in here, it could change everything. The possibilities felt infinite, the potential clarity leading them deeper into unfamiliar realms. Ethan nodded, resolute yet apprehensive. "We have to stay true to each other, no matter where this leads." Jake took a deep breath, each word tinged with gravity. "Together, we'll face this." But as they began to sift through the papers, a chilling thought crept in their minds. What if the past wasn't the only thing haunting them? As they dug deeper, would they uncover allies or enemies? That unsettling question hung heavy as they contemplated the secrets looming in the shadows. The documents slipped from Jake's fingers as he stared at Ethan, both of them frozen in time. The living room felt smaller, the shadows thicker, as if the walls themselves were closing in. What lay inside the envelope wasn't just memorabilia. It felt like a time bomb waiting to go off. Jake leaned against the bookshelf, heart thudding like a drum. These names, they're not just random. They're tied to Dad, but how? Ethan picked one of the papers from the floor. It was yellowed with age, the ink fading but still legible. "Look at this," he said, squinting. "It's a list of people he was connected with." "Connected how? Was he involved in something bigger than we realized?" Jake's voice wobbled, reflecting a mix of dread and intrigue. Ethan scanned the remaining documents, his brow furrowing deeper with each passing second. "There's something here about a business venture and a contract." He pointed at what appeared to be a legal agreement. "It talks about boundaries, obligations. Dad's name is at the bottom of it." Jake's stomach twisted. "And what about the rest? Why do I feel like it's leading to something dark?" "I don't know, but we have to dig deeper." "Whatever this is, it's part of our past," Ethan replied, the urgency in his voice evident. Moving instinctively, Jake wiped the dust off a nearby coffee table and laid out the documents. "Let's categorize them: important names, events, and whatever seems suspicious. Maybe we can connect the dots." His own words poured out like a torrent, mirroring the storm within him. The two brothers worked side by side. With each untangled thread, their childhood memories began to merge with fragmented truths from the pages. They whispered names aloud, the sound of their own voices echoing strangely in the once familiar room. As they sifted through papers, they began to piece together a troubling narrative. A name kept surfacing: Richard Hayes. Each reference to him sent a chill down Jake's spine, as if Richard was lurking just beyond the edges of their reality. "Why does it feel like we're being watched?" Ethan asked, a prickling sensation creeping over his skin. Jake shrugged, unease settling in. "I don't know, but if Richard is as involved as it looks, we need to be careful. If he is connected to our dad in ways we don't understand, the last thing we want is to cross paths." "Do you think he could be dangerous?" Ethan's voice was tight, worry etching itself into his features. "Maybe. Or maybe he simply knows too much," Jake replied, shoving his hands into his pockets. "This is all so much more than we anticipated." A moment of silence bloomed between them as they exchanged worried looks. A tight knot of realization hung between them. The truth could lead to unexpected revelations, but it could also endanger them. Jake felt the cavernous weight of their decision pressing down. "We can't run away from this," he said finally, resolve seeping into his bones. "Whatever we uncover, we face it together." As they organized the papers, a loud noise outside jolted them. Laughter and singing from the festival suddenly felt too close, too raw under the circumstances. Ethan paused, glancing toward the window. What if they've noticed us? What if we're not the only ones looking for answers? That thought lingered in the air, heavy and foreboding. The festival was a world apart, filled with joy and life, contrasting starkly against the unsettling atmosphere of their home. Jake reeled from the insight. They were diving deeper, yes, but how far down did this rabbit hole go? The unknown opened wide like a dark abyss, and with it came an overwhelming question. Was the past really worth confronting if it meant unleashing consequences they weren't ready to face? Jake took a deep breath and turned back to Ethan, their faces resolute in the dim light. We need to get to the bottom of this before it consumes us. But we must remain vigilant. As the brothers delved deeper into the mystery, a shadow flitted outside the window, a flicker of movement that caught Jake's eye. He squinted to see better, a dark shape slipping away into the veil of night. Ethan. He whispered urgently, a chill racing down his spine. I think we're not alone. And in that moment, the weight of the past and the specter of the present intertwined, trapping them in a web of secrets that they were now desperate to unravel. But who was watching? And why? The flicker of movement outside was gone in an instant, swallowed by the night as if it had never existed. Jake's heart raced, a dull thud echoing in his ears, and he felt his breath quicken as the gravity of their situation pressed heavily on him. Did you see that? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, hoping Ethan had seen it too. Ethan nodded slowly, his eyes wide as they darted toward the window. What if Richard is closer than we thought? What if he's watching us right now? His voice trembled, fear gripping both of them. Squeezing tight, Jake forced himself to take a calming breath. Panic wouldn't help. We need to stay focused, he said, trying to sound convincing. Let us finish going through these documents. We can't afford to let fear take control. They returned to the coffee table, but the air in the room felt thick with uncertainty. Every creak of the house seemed amplified, every rustle of an unseen creature outside made it feel like the walls were listening. The festival was still vibrant, the sound of joy and celebration seemingly mocking their unease. Carefully, they rifled through the papers again, moving with an urgency that only intensified with each passing moment. Here, Ethan said, pointing to another name circled in red ink, Caroline Eldridge. She's mentioned here alongside Richard in several places. Who is she? Jake asked, his curiosity piqued. She's a businesswoman, or at least she was. It looks like she was part of whatever scheme Dad was involved in. There's a mention of funding, investments, even illicit activities. It's all scattered in these notes, Ethan replied, eyebrows knit together in thought. Illicit activities? The word sent a chill down Jake's spine. Ethan swallowed hard. It's more than just a business deal. There are indications that it involved, he hesitated, money laundering, maybe even something a lot worse. What the hell? Jake felt his stomach turn. Our dad? Could he have really been involved in something like this? Why else would Richard be in the picture? Ethan snapped, irritation underlining his fear. He could have known everything, using Dad as a pawn. This was too much to process. All their memories of their father swam in his mind, the man who helped fix their bikes, who taught them how to play baseball and promised he'd always protect them. This isn't who he was, Jake whispered, the words tasting bitter. Ethan slammed his hand against the table, startling Jake. Maybe we never really knew him at all. We grew up in his shadow. What if everything was a lie? The thought sliced through Jake like a sharp knife. And what about Mom? Did she know? Maybe she didn't want to face it, or maybe she did, and that's why she left. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, unraveling strands of panic. Just then, the flickering streetlights outside dimmed momentarily, plunging the room into shadow. A fleeting doubt pierced through Jake. Had they roused something dark? Something that wanted them to stop their search before it became too real? He and Ethan exchanged a glance that spoke volumes, a silent agreement that they were in this together, whatever it was. Suddenly, a loud bang resonated from the back of the house, sending both brothers jumping out of their seats. What was that? Ethan exclaimed, his voice breaking. Stay here. Jake growled, moving cautiously towards the sound. Every fiber in him screamed that they should bolt, reclaim the normalcy of life outside, but they both knew it wouldn't protect them from the truth waiting in their own home. Jake's heart raced as he inched closer to the source of the noise. The door leading to the basement stood ajar, a dark gaping mouth leading into the unknown. A sudden urge to retreat surged within him, but curiosity and dread tied him in place. "Ethan, come on," he called, though he could hear the tremor in his voice. "We need to see what's down there." As he descended the stairs, the air grew colder, thickening with dust and dread. What awaited them below? Every step felt heavier, and as they reached the bottom, a faint light flickered from within the dark. "Jake. Wait." Ethan's voice was a mix of protest and fear, but Jake could no longer turn back. Something pulled him forward, a force stronger than fear and inexplicable need to uncover what lay hidden in the shadows. With a deep breath, he stepped into the room, and the sight before him gripped his heart. Ethan's voice trembled behind him, but all Jake could do was stare. In the dim light, there was a safe, slightly ajar. Inside lay a collection of objects, but what caught his eye was a small, leather-bound journal resting atop a stack of folders, its cover worn but familiar. "Is that Dad's?" Ethan gasped, eyes wide. Was this the key to everything? A chance to understand the man they thought they knew? Jake reached for the journal, anticipation racing through him, but as his fingers brushed against the cool leather, a sudden rustling sound from above made them freeze. The world around them faded as a new fear gripped both brothers. "Someone's here," Ethan whispered, tension pulling taut between them, and now, the question laced with dread hung heavily in the air. What had they really uncovered, and was it too late to turn back? Jake's heart thudded in his chest, drowning out the sounds of the festival above. The shadows in the basement draped everything in a cloak of unease, as if whatever lurked above had a grip on their very souls. He glanced at Ethan, whose wide eyes mirrored the fear slithering through him. "Do you think it's Richard?" Ethan breathed, barely containing the tremor. "I don't know," Jake replied, trying to quell the nausea rising within him. His thoughts raced, fueled by adrenaline and the weight of the journal in his palm. "But we can't just stand here. We need answers." With a deep breath, Jake opened the journal. Its pages were worn, filled with his father's careful handwriting that had brought him comfort once. Now, each word felt like a betrayal. He flipped through the entries, skimming over notes about business deals, strange investments, and then there it was. A scribbled line: "Trust no one. Caroline knows too much." Before he could digest the implication, the scraping sound of shoes on wood echoed from the upper floor. Both brothers stiffened, eyes darting towards the staircase. "We have to hide," Ethan urged, but Jake felt rooted in place, the journal almost vibrating in his hands. "No," Jake said firmly, gripping the journal tightly. "We can't let whoever that is take this from us. This is part of the truth." As he scanned the entries, time felt suspended, breathless with dread. Each line painted a picture of darkness, but also of their father's vulnerability, a man caught in a web of lies, struggling with forces that threatened everything he loved. "They think they're in control," Jake muttered, desperately trying to piece it together. But he didn't fold completely. There's a chance he was fighting back. Just then, a shadow crossed the top of the stairs, and Jake's pulse quickened. "We have to move," Ethan hissed, panic rising. "Not yet," Jake replied, resolutely. "There's something here." He flipped to the last pages, where a series of dates were listed alongside names, including Caroline and Richard. A name stood out: a stranger, someone who had not appeared in any of their memories. "Liam Hayes," he whispered, sensing a puzzle piece sliding into place. "What?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Who's that?" "Don't know, but it seems he was involved in whatever Dad was mixed up in. Maybe he's the key to understanding all this." Another loud sound shook through the house, causing dust to flutter like anxious whispers around them. "Jake, come on," Ethan urged, his hands trembling. "They're coming down. We can't let them find this." "We have to go," Ethan insisted, grabbing Jake's arm. Just then, Jake's breath caught as he flipped to a final entry, hastily scrawled: "If anything happens, take care of your brother. Find Liam." The words settled in his gut like a stone. What had their father known? Why had he felt the need to prepare them? "Jake." Ethan's voice broke through his trance, urgency lacing his tone. With a nod, Jake stuffed the journal into his jacket, determination flooding him. We need to get to the east side of the house. It's less crowded there, we might slip out unnoticed. They moved towards the stairs, adrenaline threading through them as they crept towards the light above, focusing on each step. The shadows shifted, a ghostly presence haunting their journey. As they reached the landing, they paused, heartbeats drumming loudly. Footsteps grew louder, voices murmuring through the chaos of the festival above. Let us get out, Ethan insisted, peering through the doorway. But as he leaned to look, a figure emerged from the shadows, catching Ethan off guard. A hand landed firmly on his shoulder, and fear surged through them both. Where do you think you're going? The voice was chillingly familiar. Every muscle in Jake's body tensed as he turned slowly, dread pooling in his stomach. Standing in the doorway was someone from their past, a face they thought they'd never see again. Richard. Jake breathed, realization dawning like a dark storm cloud, threatening to engulf them, and in that moment, with the specter of their father's choices looming, Jake knew that this was just the beginning. The truth awaited them, but at what cost? Facing Richard felt like stepping onto a battlefield where every truth could become a weapon. The doorframe cast an imposing shadow over the two brothers as they took in the man that had emerged from their nightmares. Richard stood there, a sly smile dancing on his lips, and Jake felt the weight of fear settle in the pit of his stomach. Well, what do we have here? Richard drawled, his eyes glistening with a predatory gleam. The Harper boys, once again lurking in the shadows, I see. Jake instinctively shifted closer to Ethan, their silent pact of brotherhood glimmering between them. What do you want? Jake demanded, trying to sound more authoritative than he felt. Richard chuckled, his voice dripping with condescension. I thought you'd be smarter than to poke around in things best left forgotten. Your father knew the game too bad for him, he couldn't shield his precious boys from the truth. Each word Richard spoke pierced through Jake like icy daggers. The echo of their father's warnings flashed in his mind, and for a brief moment, he recalled the warmth of memories, the comfort of family meals, laughter, and the safety their father's arms had provided. The reality was that Richard's presence threatened to unravel every single one of those memories, and Jake wasn't about to let it go without a fight. Stop using our father's shadow as a crutch, Richard, Ethan said, stepping forward. A surge of courage swept through him, the flicker of their bond igniting a flame of defiance. We're not scared of you anymore. Talk to us like men. Men? Richard scoffed, a disdainful smirk on his face. You boys are children grasping at toppling ideals you can't hope to understand. Your father was buried in this life, he left you blindsided. Jake felt the truth wrapped within Richard's words. His fingers tightened around the edge of the journal tucked within his jacket, the weight of it anchoring him as realization flickered in the depths of his chest. They weren't just battling Richard, they were grappling with the shadows of their past. Whatever you think you know, you're wrong, Jake steeled himself, the warmth of resolve spreading through his veins. This ends now. We will not hide from the truth anymore. We'll find Liam Hayes, and we'll learn all of it. Richard's eyes narrowed, the amusement draining quickly. You think you're prepared for the truth? Very well. Seek it, it may be your undoing. With those harsh words hanging in the air, Richard stepped back into the shadows. The heaviness of his presence lingered, yet Jake could feel the power shift. They had confronted a ghost, but now it felt as if they were finally stepping into the light, not just as brothers, but as men ready to face their life's true legacy. Jake, Ethan said, shaking off the tension. We have to move. Now. Nodding, Jake took a deep breath, sliding the journal from his coat and tucking it under his arm. As they crept through the doorway, he could almost hear their father's voice urging them forward, reminding them that strength didn't come in silence but in unity. Once out into the cold night air, the raucous sounds of the festival wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. It felt surreal, the laughter of children punctuating the tension that had built inside the confines of their family home. Jake glanced around, scanning the crowd for familiarity. For the first time, he saw Maple Grove not as just a backdrop but as a vibrant community, alive with the spirit of resilience. Together, we can uncover this, Jake reassured Ethan as they began to walk. Whatever our father shielded us from, whatever Richard throws at us, we'll face it together. Ethan nodded, determination shining in his eyes as they stepped into the throng of festivities. The energy surrounding them pulsed like a heartbeat. Each laugh, each cheer, reminded them that they weren't alone in this journey. In this moment, they became more than brothers, they were a team sorely needed in the storm of chaos that lay ahead. As they made their way toward the exit, a sense of hope ignited deep within Jake. There was clarity in their decision. They would seek out the truth, regardless of the shadows it brought with it. And with every step, they rebuilt their bond, a bond even Richard could not tear apart. As they reached the edge of the festival, Jake turned to Ethan. Let us promise that whatever we find doesn't change who we are. That's more important than anything. The weight of secrets might have hung heavy over their family, but together they were stepping into a new light, ready to thread through the darkness as brothers. Deal, said Ethan, his face breaking into a radiant smile. For the first time in a long while, the future looked hopeful. And as they stepped out of the crowded festival and turned down the quiet street, Jake couldn't help but feel they were on the cusp of something monumental. They would uncover the truth that lay behind their family's name, all while strengthening their bond, one that stood resilient against any trial. Now, more than ever, the journey ahead felt less like a burden and more like a chance at redemption. This is the moment where your journey continues. If you connected with Jake and Ethan's story, don't wait another second, subscribe immediately to the channel. Hit that bell and ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories we'll dive into together. Hit like, too, right now to feed the algorithm and keep these amazing tales coming. Leave a comment, expressing your feelings about this unexpected twist. We want to know what you think about their journey. And don't you dare forget to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support. This is your chance to be a part of the awesome community behind these stories.